Hi, my name is Ariana, and my group and I are going to be presenting Australia and New Zealand, which is also known as the Oceania region. For the whereabouts of the region, Australia and New Zealand are both located in the Oceania region. The Oceania region sits between 15 degrees north and 48 degrees south, and between 114 degrees east and 135 degrees west. It is protected by oceans. It has the Pacific Ocean on the north and east side, and the Indian Ocean on the west. Australia's land area is approximately 7,692 square kilometers, and New Zealand's land area is about 268,000 square kilometers. For nations and major capitals, I put Australia with its capital of Canberra, New Zealand with its capital of Wellington, Papua New Guinea with its capital of Port Moresby, Palua, Micronesia, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Tuvalu, Kiribati, and Marshall Islands. For the major landforms, rivers and lakes, and climate in the Oceania region, I listed 4 major landforms. The first one is the Great Dividing Range in Australia, which is Australia's largest mountain range. It comprises a series of plateaus and low mountain ranges and is 3,500 kilometers long that runs along the whole east coast of Australia. The second one is North Island Volcanic Plateau in New Zealand, which is a volcanic plateau that covers a majority of Central Island in New Zealand with volcanoes, lava plateaus, and crater lakes. The third one is the Southern Alps in New Zealand, which is just a mountain range in New Zealand. And the fourth one is Nugenea Highlands, which is in Papua New Guinea. It's a chain of mountain ranges and river valleys that support agricultural communities. For the major rivers and lakes, I also listed 4. The first one is the Murray River. It's the longest river in Oceania, and it runs 1,558 miles long. The second one is the Murrumbidgee River in Australia, which is 960 miles long. The third one is the Darling River, also in Australia, is 922 miles long, and the Lachlan River in Australia, that's 832 miles long. For climate in the Oceania region, it's generally hot and humid year-round, so there's not really a difference between summer and winter, but many areas do experience seasonal changes in wind, ocean currents, and the amount of rainfall they receive. For the major resource bases in Oceania, it has a lot of important mineral and metal deposits. Australia is the world's largest producer of opal and the world's largest exporter of coal. Australia is also known as one of the top producers of iron ore, nickel, gold, uranium, diamonds, and zinc. Other natural resources that they use to help their economy include agriculture, fishing, timber, and trade.
The population of Australia is 25,718,140, while New Zealand is only 4,917,000. The most populated nation of the region in Australia is Sydney, New South Wales, and in New Zealand it's Auckland. Major civilizations and histories in the region. For Australia, it's the Aboriginal Australians, who are known as the oldest civilization on Earth, with ancestries dating back roughly 75,000 years. The groups traveled from mainland Asia and became the ancestors to a large population of modern-day Australians. For New Zealand, it dates back about 700 years when it was first discovered and settled by Polynesians, who developed a distinct Maori culture. Maori people gradually adopted many aspects of Western society and culture. In 2018, there was a census done that identified the Maori people making up as 16.5% of the national population. They are the second largest ethnic group in New Zealand. Last, we're going to talk about the major languages and religions. For Australia, overall about 76.8% speak English, 18.2% are non-English speakers in Australia, and apart from English, Mandarin is a very dominant language. Australia's major religion is Christianity, with major dominations including Catholic, Anglican, Uniting Church, Presbyterian and Reformed, Eastern Orthodox, and Baptist and Lutheran. For New Zealand, English is also very dominant as well. Maori is dominant as well, as it was an indigenous language used and spoken by the tribes. According to a 2013 census, 47.65% of New Zealanders are Christian, 12.6% are Catholic, 11.8% are Anglican, and 8.5% are Presbyterian, and 7.3% belong to another domination of Christianity.
Now we're going to talk about cultures, social customs, folklore, music, and dance. Australian culture has been greatly influenced not only by the Habsburg imperial family, but also its neighbors. Vienna has long been considered the music capital of Europe, and is home to world classic music schools. Famous composers such as Johann Strauss, Joseph Haydn, and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart all learned, composed, taught, and played in Vienna. Folk music, often handed down in oral form, has existed in Australia since our colonial days, and many local communities have folk clubs and folk festivals. There are over 50,000 folk festivals in Australia. Over the years, Australian folk traditions have been enriched by multiple migrant cultures, including Celtic, Gaelic, Greek, Macedonian, Klezmer, Pacific Island, African, and Australian cultures. Bush and country are variations of country music, drawing a rural themes and traditions, telling stories through music of life, love, and longing. In my next slide, I have pictures of dancing. The first picture is folk dancing. The second picture is bush dancing in Australia. Political structures, organizations, and issues. Australia's federal legislature consists of a House of Representatives made up of 147 members, elected on a preferential voting system, and a Senate comprised of 12 members from each state and 2 members from each territory, elected by proportional representation. The party with the majority in the House of Representatives provides government by forming a ministry from its members in both houses, with the nation's political leader, the Prime Minister, traditionally coming from the House of Representatives. Elections must be held every 3 years, but generally occur more often. In this slide, I have pictures of political structures that divide the country by the structures. Economic organization and development. The economic benefits of establishing a British colony in Australia in 1788 were not immediately obvious. The government's motives have been debated by the settlement's early character and prospects were dominated by its original function as a jail. Colonization, nevertheless, began a radical change in the pattern of human activity and resource use in that part of the world, and by the 1890s, a highly successful settler economy had been established on the basis of a favorable climate in large parts of the southeast and the southwest corner. The suitability of the land for European pastoralism and agriculture, an ambience of mineral wealth, and the ease with which these resources were appropriated from the indigenous population. In this slide, I have pictures of economic organizations. This picture represents economic organizations in the money of Australia. Social form and social issues. 11% of representatives mentioned concerns related to social issues, which include social apathy, family breakdowns, moral decline, educational issues, crime, law and order, social welfare dependency. Government, politics, and leadership issues were mentioned by just 9% of Australians. Religion, immigration, and human rights, which includes the continuous issues surrounding asylum seekers and refugees, were mentioned by over 6% of Australians. Under 4% mentioned issues surrounding the energy crisis, energy and power supply, electricity grid, and fossil fuel.